Well, the question is, will we see some field work activity as we get into this week ahead across the country with spring planting season upon us? Sounds like maybe for some folks we will, others going to be waiting a little while longer yet. Here to walk through the weather forecast for the week ahead, we welcome in Eric Snodgrass of Nutrien. Eric, good to catch up with you. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. And now looking at this weather forecast for the upcoming week, as I mentioned, some folks sounds like they might be able to turn a wheel and get some work done. Others, it's going to be a little bit of a wait, it sounds like still.
Yeah, a couple good things happened over the weekend. And the first was that we put a bunch of moisture from eastern Texas to North Carolina. There was a spot in there that was dry. That's an area we need to get some moisture back into place. But we were dry and quite warm in the Midwest, Mid South, and warm, and folks got going. So, yesterday, when I was driving home from Easter Sunday, just across a small part of central Illinois, from Springfield to Champaign, I saw 6 planters rolling on Sunday night on Easter. So, they were out going after this. And the pattern's going to open up to quite a bit of warmth this week. We're actually going to see 80s as far north as South Dakota. That's right. And maybe even creeping into southern Wisconsin and Montana today and tomorrow, deep into the 70s. I mean, there's a lot of warm air that's spreading pretty far to the north. So the windows are going to get blown wide open for a lot of folks, and they're going to go after it pretty aggressively here. But just a reminder, it's April 10th. We are still going to have more precip coming through. We're still going to have temperatures that will get down close to that frost in the Midwest. I don't know if it'll get all the way to the Mid-South, but about a week from now, next Monday, Tuesday, we could be looking at some early morning frost that gets as far south as I don't know, I-70 maybe. We'll have to watch out for that pretty carefully. But yeah, this is going fast. And I'll be honest with you, you go back to some of our conversations we had in March about what we thought mid-April was going to look like. And I said, I think tight windows and cold is going to be around longer than this. And then, you know how the pattern does in spring. It likes to surprise everybody. It got me. And at least it surprised us on the good side of things, and it's starting to open up. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week ahead.
Well, I know one area that probably not going to be seeing a whole lot of activity is the northern plains, the northwestern ag belt. You mentioned some of those 80s getting to South Dakota. That's going to increase that snow melt, which I'm sure in turn is going to increase the flooding risk. So, what's the latest you're seeing with the forecast for folks who are dealing with that snowpack in the northern plains?
Yeah, so there's kind of two things to think about there. There's a lot of water in that snow that's got to melt. And unfortunately, the soil temps below at the top 4 inches, we're still right at freezing. So we're going to get a lot of runoff from this. So we're looking at flooding, on the Red River, the northern Mississippi, and all of its tributaries, James River. These rivers that run through the northern plains they're going to go toward flood stage. But with the heat, it's going to promote a pretty rapid melt. But what it's going to do is it's going to just get things muddy and mucky and soggy. That's the first thing. This is, by the way, faster than I had anticipated. I thought we'd be looking all the way to the end of April before we'd be able to eliminate snowpack in the northern plains. If this keeps up, we should get there before the end of April. Second part of this, though, is that there is a system coming out of the Rocky Mountains on Friday that could drop some snow in Colorado and maybe in the upper Midwest. Is it Wisconsin? Is it Minnesota? Is it the Dakota? I don't know. It keeps shifting around in the models. But that there may be some more snow. Then that would be rain farther to the south across the ice states getting down into the Mid-South. Maybe some strong to severe storms. But until then, we're not talking about much of anything at all rolling through the country. But we're just going to have to watch out for it. That'll be late this week, early this weekend that we're talking about that system coming through here. And then remember, following that, we got colder air briefly. But that's going to be it, man. It's going to be brief. We're going to have just a wide open jet stream flow, which means every 3 days you get one pattern, then it's a break. And then 3 days, it's going to move and move and move as we go forward. So we'll find windows and we'll get guys in there. But the northern plains are going to have to wait, I think, the longest, unfortunately, because of how much snow's still on the ground.
Well, Eric, I know with all of this talk for the forecast, a lot of folks this time of year start to look at the growing degree days. And I know you put this in your Monday newsletter, this picture. I'll pull it up on the video feed. Walk us through just what are your thoughts with what you're seeing for the growing degree days and how things have accumulated so far and what we're looking at moving forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of a three-part story, right? We have the precip and the soil moisture. We have the second part being the soil temperatures. And then the third thing is what can the atmosphere deliver in terms of heat? So we're going to watch soil temps go back above 50 degrees Fahrenheit pretty far north, most of the Corn Belt except for the very far northern plains. So then the sun beats down on all this. These daytime high temperatures get pretty high. And now all of a sudden you notice that parts of Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, we're talking 90 to 110 GDDs inside of a week. Now, the old rule is you get 120 of these after you plant a crop of corn, then you should be looking at emergence, which some of these folks, could see pretty rapid emergence if they got into the field this past weekend. So that just shows you how warm things are going to be going forward. But what I don't like about this is look at parts of North Dakota, South Dakota. See those 3 zeros up there? Those are all places where we're not going to be able to accumulate any GDDs this week just because of the way the high temperatures are going to stay cooler on top of that snowpack. So what a contrast, right? You just go from the Red River of the North right down all the way to Omaha. You go from 0 to 100 GDDs in 1 week.
Just amazing numbers to think about, and of course we're going to be watching it closely. And Eric, I don't want to get too far ahead of us here, as we got plenty of spring in front of us, but summer, I mean, what's the latest outlook here as we get this crop into the ground and look ahead towards the summer growing season?
Yeah, biggest question on all of our minds is how rapidly do we get the atmosphere to start behaving like El Nino, like just staying in, normal El Nino behavior, because that would tend to put split flow in the west, which makes the west hot, unfortunately, but tends to bring better northwest flow through the Corn Belt. We tend to have rain. We tend to do better. We tend to, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, 17 times since 1970, there's been an El Nino during the growing season, and 14 of them hit trend line or above yields. So everyone's looking at that. And we just got new model data that just showed up that said June, July, August from the European model and from the National Multi-Model Ensemble, they're putting green on that map. And that green means better chances of being above normal. But like you said, it is April 10th. I've joked before, but my crystal ball has cataracts. No one can see out that far to tell you exactly what it's going to look like. But it's a better situation than if we were still stuck in La Nina going forward. So yeah, until we have evidence to overturn that, we got to let that be our main idea for this upcoming summer.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on things closely, and we'll watch and see how much field work gets done here in this week ahead. And of course, folks can stay up to date. Eric's daily weather newsletter. You can find the link on our website, markettalkag.com. Eric Snodgrass with Nutrien. Thanks for joining us again this week, sir. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too.